The wind howled across the rocky surface of New Haven, carrying clouds of purple dust that scratched against Captain Walker's visor. His team of 6 Marines moved silently through the alien terrain, their boots leaving temporary marks that the wind quickly erased. They were alone on this frontier world, or at least that's what their scanners had told them. "Movement, 3 o'clock," whispered Tom through the squad's comm channel. The young Marine's hand tightened around his rifle, finger resting carefully outside the trigger guard. Walker raised his fist, and the squad froze. Their camouflage suits adjusted to match the dark rocks around them. Through his enhanced visor, Walker spotted what Tom had seen. A shimmer in the air, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. But New Haven was cold, its surface barely above freezing. "Optical cloaking," Walker said quietly. "Spread out, defense formation beta." The squad moved with practiced precision, each soldier taking position behind different rock formations. Walker's mind raced through their options. Their dropship was 20 minutes away, hidden in a deep ravine. They had come to New Haven for routine reconnaissance, not expecting to find advanced technology like optical cloaking. The air shimmered again, this time in multiple places. Walker's heart sank as he realized they were surrounded. "Team, prepare for..." He never finished the sentence. A blast of blue energy struck the rock beside him, turning it to glass instantly. The air filled with similar blasts as their attackers revealed themselves. They were tall, their bodies covered in what looked like crystalline armor that caught and reflected the dim sunlight. Their weapons seemed to grow directly from their arms, as if they were part of their bodies. Walker had never seen this species before. "Return fire," Walker shouted, squeezing off several shots at the nearest attacker. His bullets sparked harmlessly off their crystal armor. Tom managed to hit one in what appeared to be a joint, causing it to stumble, but 2 more immediately took its place. "Captain, these things aren't in our database," shouted Mary, the team's combat scientist. She fired her weapon while scanning the enemies with her wrist computer. "Their biology appears to be silicon-based." Walker ducked as another energy blast turned the space where his head had been into glass. "Fall back to Point Charlie. We need to..." His words cut off as something struck him from behind. His muscles seized up, and he fell forward, unable to move. Through blurring vision, he saw his team meeting similar fates. The aliens had somehow circled behind them, using weapons that fired some kind of neural disruptor. One by one, his Marines dropped to the ground, their bodies rigid but conscious. The tallest of the aliens approached Walker. Its crystalline face had no features he could recognize as eyes or mouth, yet he felt it studying him. When it spoke, the sound seemed to vibrate through his bones, rather than travel through the air. "Humans," it said, the word somehow translated into English. "So soft, so fragile, yet you venture into space as if you belong among the stars." It prodded Walker with its foot. "Your species has caused enough trouble, but perhaps you can serve a greater purpose." Walker tried to speak, but his muscles wouldn't respond. He could only watch as more of the crystalline beings emerged from their cloaking fields. They moved with mechanical precision, securing the human prisoners with energy restraints that hummed with power. "Take them to the research facility," the tall one commanded. "Director Krell will be pleased. These specimens are in excellent physical condition." As Walker felt himself being lifted, he caught a final glimpse of New Haven's purple sky. Their simple recon mission had gone horribly wrong. They had stumbled into something much bigger, and he had a terrible feeling that being captured was just the beginning of their troubles. The last thing he saw before a hood was placed over his head was one of the aliens examining their weapons with what seemed like curiosity. Such primitive projectile technology, it vibrated. How do they expect to survive in the galaxy with tools like these? Walker's last conscious thought was a grim reminder of human history. Underestimating humans had always been a deadly mistake. No matter what these creatures had planned, he knew one thing: they would regret taking his team alive. The hood came off Walker's head, and bright white light stabbed at his eyes. He blinked several times, trying to adjust to the harsh glare. The room around him was sterile and white, with smooth walls that seemed to be made of the same crystalline material as the alien's armor. He tried to move, but thick restraints held him to a tilted metal table. His combat suit had been replaced with a thin gray jumpsuit. Looking down, he saw small metal discs attached to his chest and arms, each one connected to thin wires that led to nearby machines. "The specimen is conscious," came that bone-vibrating voice he remembered from the surface. A tall crystalline figure stepped into view, its faceted head catching and splitting the light into rainbow patterns. "I am Director Krell. Welcome to our research facility." Walker tested his restraints again. "Where is my team?" "The other specimens are in similar chambers," Krell said, moving to check one of the machines. "Your species has caused considerable inconvenience in this sector. But as a scientist, I believe every problem brings opportunity. You will help us understand human weaknesses." Another alien entered the room, smaller than Krell, carrying what looked like medical instruments. They were made of the same crystal-like material as everything else, but their edges gleamed wickedly. "Begin recording," Krell commanded. "Human pain response test, Series 1. The smaller alien pressed one of the instruments against Walker's arm. Pain shot through him like liquid fire, but he clenched his jaw, refusing to make a sound. He'd been through military training. He could handle pain. "Interesting," Krell vibrated. "Most species scream at this level of stimulus. Increase intensity by 30%. The pain doubled, then tripled. Walker's muscles strained against the restraints, but he kept silent. Sweat ran down his face as he focused on his breathing, just like he'd been taught. In through the nose, out through the mouth. "Remarkable," Krell noted, studying the readings on the machines. "The subject's neural patterns are already adapting to the pain input. This shouldn't be possible at this speed." He moved closer to Walker's face. "Tell me, human, how are you doing this?" Walker managed a grim smile. "Basic training was worse." The director stepped back, its crystalline form reflecting Walker's strained expression. "You attempt humor in this situation. Perhaps this is why your species is so troublesome. You lack the wisdom to accept your own limitations." The smaller alien adjusted another instrument, and new pain bloomed across Walker's chest. This time, it was harder to stay quiet. But as the pain continued, something strange happened. It didn't exactly hurt less, but it began to feel different, more distant, as if his body was learning to process it in a new way. "Director," the smaller alien vibrated urgently. "The specimen's readings are unusual. His nerve responses are changing." Krell moved to examine the machine displays. "Impossible. No biological system can adapt this quickly." He turned back to Walker. "What are you hiding, human?" Through the haze of pain, Walker noticed something odd. Each time the aliens adjusted their instruments, his body seemed to recover a little faster. The pain that had been unbearable minutes ago was becoming manageable. "Increase to maximum intensity," Krell ordered. "Let's see how the specimen handles that." As new waves of agony washed over him, Walker remembered something from Earth's history. Stories of prisoners in ancient wars who didn't just survive torture. They grew stronger from it. He'd always thought those were just legends. The pain peaked, and Walker finally screamed. But in that moment of absolute agony, something inside him shifted. The monitoring machines began to spark and smoke. "Director," the smaller alien backed away from the equipment. "These readings, they're outside all known parameters." Krell's crystalline form seemed to ripple with concern. "Shut it down. Something is wrong." But as they rushed to power down their instruments, Walker realized an important truth. The aliens hadn't understood a fundamental fact about humans. What doesn't kill them really does make them stronger. And he had a feeling they were about to learn this lesson the hard way. The junior researcher named Rix stared at the blood sample through the analysis chamber, his crystalline fingers tapping nervously on the lab bench. Something was very wrong with these readings. He ran the tests again, hoping for different results, but the numbers stayed the same. In the next room, he could hear the screams from the latest round of research. Director Krell had moved on to testing the female human called Mary. But like Captain Walker yesterday, her readings made no sense. Director, Rix called out, his vibrations trembling with worry. "You need to see this." Krell entered the analysis room, his tall form radiating annoyance. "This had better be important, junior researcher." The specimen was just reaching an interesting pain threshold. Rix pulled up the holographic display showing blood samples from all 6 human prisoners. "Look at these readings, taken over the past 3 days. The first day's samples are in red, second in blue, third in green." The display showed complex molecular structures floating in the air between them. Even to Krell's experienced eyes, the changes were obvious. The human blood cells had changed their structure, becoming more resilient with each passing day. "Their endorphin levels are off our charts," Rix continued. "Their nerve endings are actually growing stronger, not weaker. And look at their tissue regeneration rate, it's increasing exponentially." Krell's crystalline form flickered with disbelief. "Impossible. No species can adapt this quickly to systematic stress." A scream echoed from the testing chamber, but this one was different. It wasn't a scream of pain, it sounded almost like laughter. Both aliens rushed to the observation window. Mary was strapped to the testing table, her body covered in sweat, but her face showed no fear. Instead, she was smiling. "You don't understand what you're doing, do you?" she said, her voice hoarse but steady. "Every soldier learns about this in basic training. The human body is the most adaptable survival machine ever evolved." Krell increased the pain stimulus to maximum. Mary's body arched against the restraints, but her smile didn't fade. "Their bodies are communicating somehow," Rick said, checking more readings. "When one prisoner experiences a new type of pain, the others' bodies begin preparing for it before we even test them. It's like they're learning as a group." In the testing chamber, sparks began flying from the equipment connected to Mary. The metal discs on her skin were starting to heat up, glowing red-hot, but instead of burning her, they seemed to be melting themselves. "Shut it down," Krell ordered. "Increase the neural blockers." But when they tried to inject Mary with more suppressants, the needle couldn't pierce her skin. It bent, then shattered. Director, Rix's vibrations were now shaking with fear. "You remember Earth's history. Their planet tried to kill them thousands of times. Massive climate changes, predators, diseases, natural disasters. Most species would have gone extinct. But humans adapted." Krell finished, finally understanding. "Every time their world tried to kill them, they grew stronger. And now we're doing the same thing," Rick said. "We're not breaking them. We're—" "Evolution under pressure," Mary called out from the chamber, somehow hearing their vibrated conversation. "That's what we do best." Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Rix rushed to check the main computer terminal. "Director, the other specimens, their vital signs are all spiking at once. Their body temperatures are reaching levels that should be fatal, but they're still conscious." Krell moved quickly to the facility's main control panel. "Lock down all research chambers, triple the guard patrols, and bring me every piece of data we have on human biological history." But as the facility's locks engaged and guards rushed to their posts, Rix couldn't shake a terrifying thought. They weren't studying the humans anymore. The humans were using their tests to transform themselves into something new. And based on these readings, they were just getting started. Walker's body burned. Not with pain anymore. He'd moved beyond pain 2 days ago. This was different. His skin felt like it contained lightning, and his blood seemed to boil in his veins. But instead of hurting, it felt like power. Director Krell and 3 other researchers watched from behind a reinforced barrier as their most intense tests yet continued. The machines monitoring Walker were smoking, their crystal displays cracking from the heat his body was generating. Body temperature now at 43 degrees Celsius, one researcher reported. "He should be dead or brain damage." but brain activity is actually increasing. More power to the pain inductors, Krell ordered, but his vibrations carried an edge of fear. We must understand how they're doing this. The machines hummed louder, pouring more energy into Walker's body. Sweat evaporated instantly from his skin, creating a visible steam around him. The metal table beneath him began to warp from his body heat. In nearby chambers, the other 5 humans were undergoing similar changes. Through the facility's monitoring system, Krell could see all of them exhibiting impossible readings. Tom's muscle density had tripled. Mary's skin could now deflect their sharpest blades. The others showed equally dramatic changes. Director. Rix burst into the observation room, clutching the data tablet. I found something in Earth's biological records, their planet's history. There was a period called the Hadean Era when surface temperatures exceeded 500 degrees Celsius. Some scientists believe early human ancestors survived by. A loud crack interrupted him. Everyone turned to see Walker's restraints beginning to bend. The metal, rated to hold creatures 10 times stronger than a human, was actually melting. Impossible, Krell whispered. Then louder, increased power, full containment protocols. But as they watched in horror, Walker's eyes opened. They glowed with an inner light, like molten metal. When he spoke, his voice carried the same bone-vibrating quality as the Krelaxian speech. You wanted to know our limits, Walker said, his words making the observation window shake. The problem is, humans don't really have any. We just keep adapting. The restraints holding his right arm snapped with a sound like a gunshot. Steam poured off his body as he slowly sat up, the remaining restraints groaning under the strain. Emergency protocols. Krell shouted. Release the nerve gas. Green gas flooded Walker's chamber, but he breathed it in like it was nothing. Interesting, he said, examining his free hand which now glowed with heat. Our bodies learned from your silicon biology. We're becoming something new. Through the facility's cameras, they could see the other humans breaking free too. Each one had changed in different ways, their bodies adapting to whatever tortures they'd endured most. The specimens are changing at a molecular level, a researcher reported, panic in his vibrations. Their DNA is rewriting itself in real time. They're not just adapting anymore, they're evolving. Walker stood up as the last restraint broke. Where his feet touched the floor, the metal surface actually bubbled. He looked directly at Krell through the observation window and smiled. You know what's really interesting? Walker said. These changes? They're still happening, and they're accelerating. Alarms blared throughout the facility as power systems began to overload. The humans were somehow affecting the electrical grid just by existing near it. Full lockdown. Krell ordered. Seal all chambers. Contact Central Command for emergency evacuation. But as the blast doors slammed shut, Rix noticed something terrifying on his monitors. The humans' vital signs were synchronized now, pulsing in perfect rhythm like they were somehow connected. Director, Rix said quietly, I don't think containment is going to work anymore. We didn't just make them stronger. We made them something else entirely, Krell finished, watching as Walker placed one glowing hand against the chamber wall, making the metal glow red. And I fear we're about to learn exactly what that means. Walker stood in his chamber, eyes closed, feeling the electricity flowing through the facility's walls. It was like seeing with a new sense. He could trace every power line, every circuit, every energy pulse that kept the prison running. More importantly, he could sense his team. Tom was 3 chambers to the left, his enhanced muscles now strong enough to dent the reinforced walls. Mary was 2 levels down, her altered skin absorbing and redirecting energy like a living shield. Each of his squad members had changed in unique ways, adapting to survive the specific tortures they'd endured. But the most incredible change was the connection between them. Walker could feel their presence in his mind, not as words or pictures, but as pure sensation. They were becoming a single organism, their enhanced bodies linking together in ways their alien captors couldn't understand. Fascinating, isn't it? Mary's thoughts reached him clearly. She didn't need to speak anymore. None of them did. Our bodies didn't just adapt to their torture. They're adapting to each other. Through their shared awareness, Walker felt Tom testing his new strength against his chamber walls. "The metal's getting weaker," Tom reported silently. "They didn't design these cells to hold anything like us." In the control room above, Walker could sense the Kralaxians scrambling to understand what was happening. Their crystalline bodies gave off their own energy signatures, making them easy to track. Director Krull was there, his pattern bright with fear. "Their biology is completely rewriting itself." Rix's vibrations carried through the walls. "The changes are spreading exponentially. Look at these readings. Their cells are sharing information somehow, passing adaptations between them." Walker opened his eyes, which now glowed like molten copper. He placed his hand on the chamber wall, feeling the complex network of power conduits running through it. With his new senses, the alien technology was like an open book. "They're planning to terminate us," he sent to his team. "They're realizing we're too dangerous to keep alive." "Let them try," came Lisa's thought from 2 chambers over. Her body had adapted to the neural weapons, turning her into something like a living electrical storm. "I can feel their power grid. It's not so different from our own nervous systems now." "Team," Walker projected to all of them. "Status report. What can everyone do?" The responses flowed into his mind like water. "Tom, I can break through almost anything. My muscles adapt and get stronger with each attempt." "Mary, nothing they throw at me sticks anymore. My skin absorbs energy and makes me stronger." "Lisa, I can control electrical currents. Their weapons don't work on me. I just absorb the power." "Marcus, my blood carries nanoscale crystals now. I can interface with their technology just by touching it." "Jack, my brain processes information like their computers. I can see patterns in everything." Walker nodded, integrating their new abilities into a plan. Above them, he could sense the Kralaxians preparing their final solution, a massive energy pulse designed to overload and destroy their changed bodies. "They still don't understand," he sent to his team. "They think we're just getting stronger. They don't realize we're becoming something entirely new." Through their shared connection, Walker felt his team's agreement. The aliens had tried to break them, but instead had forced them to evolve. Every test, every torture, every attempt to understand human limitations had only proven one thing: humans had no fixed limits. "Get ready," Walker commanded, feeling the power building in the facility systems. When they tried to overload the grid, he sent them the plan without words, letting them feel his intent. The team's response came as one. They were ready. Around them, alarms blared as the Kralaxians prepared their final solution, not realizing they were about to give their prisoners exactly what they needed to break free. Walker smiled as he felt the power building. The aliens were about to learn the hard way. What doesn't kill humans makes them stronger. And they were already so much stronger than anyone could have imagined. The Kralaxian guard walked past Walker's chamber, trying not to look directly at the human inside. The prisoner appeared broken, slumped in the corner, his skin still glowing with that unsettling inner heat. The guard quickened his pace, eager to finish his patrol. He didn't notice Walker's slight smile. The humans had discovered something important. The Kralaxians were becoming afraid of them, and fear made them careless. "They've reduced the power to the containment fields," Marcus sent through their mental link. "They think we're too weak to notice." Walker kept his position, appearing defeated while his mind reached out to his team. The aliens had never understood that humans were social creatures. Every torture they'd endured had only brought them closer together, strengthening their new connection. "Tom," Walker thought, "how many guards on your level?" "2 now," Tom replied. "They cut the security team in half. These crystal folks really don't handle fear well." Through their shared awareness, Walker could feel Mary testing her new abilities. Her transformed skin could now absorb and redirect energy with incredible precision. "The main power conduit runs right under my chamber," she reported. "I can feel every pulse." In the control room, Director Krull was becoming increasingly paranoid. Walker could sense his erratic energy signature as he paced back and forth. The junior researcher, Rix, was there too, still trying to understand what was happening to their subjects. "Director, Rix's vibrations carried through the facility structure. The humans' vital signs are synchronized perfectly. Even their brain waves are matching. We've never seen anything like this." "They're weakening," Krell insisted, but his vibrations trembled with uncertainty. "The specimens can barely move. Our tests have finally broken them." If only they knew. Walker sent a subtle pulse through the facility's electrical system and felt his team respond in kind. They had spent days practicing this, appearing weak while secretly learning to manipulate the very systems meant to contain them. "Lisa," Walker called through their link, "how's your control over the electrical systems?" Lisa's response came with a hint of excitement. "Better than they could imagine. I can feel every circuit, every power flow. Just say when." The humans had made another fascinating discovery. The Kralaxians' crystalline technology was vulnerable to harmonized energy pulses. By working together, they could create interference patterns that disrupted the alien systems. "Jack," Walker thought, "what's our success probability?" Jack's enhanced mind processed the variables instantly. 87%, assuming they follow their normal patterns. They're creatures of habit, another weakness. The team had learned to coordinate their new abilities with incredible precision. Tom's strength, Mary's energy absorption, Lisa's electrical control, Marcus's crystal interface, and Jack's enhanced processing. Together, they were far more powerful than apart. "Remember," Walker sent to his team, "we only get one chance, when the facility runs its daily power cycle." "We'll be ready," they responded in unison. Through the walls, Walker felt Rix examining more test results. The young researcher was the only one who seemed to grasp the truth that the humans weren't just surviving, they were evolving into something unprecedented. "Director," Rix's worried vibrations reached them. "These readings suggest the specimens are somehow communicating. We should increase security." "Nonsense." Krell dismissed him. "They're isolated, broken. Our tests have proven their weakness." Walker allowed himself a small, hidden smile. The aliens' greatest mistake wasn't capturing them, or even torturing them. It was assuming that humans would break under pressure. They never understood that pressure was what humans needed to become something more. As the facility's daily power cycle approached, Walker felt his team's readiness through their bond. The Kralaxians had created something they couldn't control, couldn't understand, and couldn't stop. Soon, they would learn what happened when you pushed humans too far. The resistance wasn't coming. It was already here, hidden behind defeated poses and slumped shoulders, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The facility's daily power cycle began exactly on schedule. As the main generators spun up to full capacity, Director Krull stood in the control room, watching the energy readings climb. "All specimens secure," a guard reported. "No signs of movement." Krull's crystalline form reflected the blinking lights of the control panels. "Begin the termination sequence. We can't risk letting them live any." The words died in his throat as every screen in the control room suddenly flickered. Through the observation windows, he saw Walker stand up smoothly in his chamber, all pretense of weakness gone. The human's eyes blazed like miniature suns. "Now," Walker's voice echoed through the facility speakers, though his mouth hadn't moved. 5 other chambers lit up simultaneously as the rest of the team activated their powers. Tom's muscles burst with energy as he slammed his fists into the walls. Mary's skin absorbed the chamber's electrical field, turning her into a living lightning rod. Lisa became pure energy, flowing through the facility circuits. Marcus's crystallized blood resonated with the alien technology, turning their own systems against them. Jack's enhanced mind reached out and seized control of the facility's computers. "Emergency protocols," Krell shouted. Release the nerve gas. Activate all defenses. But nothing responded. The humans had complete control of their systems. Walker placed his hand on his chamber wall, and the metal simply melted away. You know what your biggest mistake was. His voice came through every speaker at once. You thought torture would break us. Instead, it just showed us how to become something new. Alarms blared as chaos erupted throughout the facility. Guards fired their weapons, but Mary stepped in front of her team, her transformed skin absorbing and redirecting every energy blast back at the shooters. Tom moved like a living battering ram, clearing paths through walls and security forces alike. Fascinating adaptation rate, Rix noted almost calmly, watching the monitors as the humans moved through the facility with unstoppable precision. They're not just working together, they're evolving together. Krell spun to face the junior researcher. This is not the time for scientific observation. We must stop them. I don't think we can, Rix replied. Look at their energy signatures. They're perfectly synchronized. Everything we did to them just made them stronger. The escaped humans converged on the control room. The door, designed to withstand a starship's engine blast, crumpled like paper when Tom hit it. Walker entered first, his heat signature now so intense that the floor smoldered beneath his feet. Director Krell, Walker said, his voice carrying that same bone-vibrating quality as the Krelaxians. Your experiment is over. Krell backed away, his crystalline form flickering with terror. What? What are you? We're human, Walker replied simply. We adapt. We evolve. We survive. And now, thanks to you, we're something more. The team moved as one, their powers combining. Mary absorbed the facility's energy, while Lisa redirected it. Marcus used his crystallized blood to interface with the alien systems, while Jack processed the data streams. Tom's strength kept the increasingly desperate guards at bay. The research data, Krell said desperately. We must preserve it. The scientific value. Already downloaded, Jack interrupted. Along with proof of what you did here. The galaxy should know what happens when you underestimate humanity. Walker stepped forward, heat shimming around him. Your facility is now part of our nervous system. In 30 seconds, we're going to overload every power source simultaneously. I suggest you run. The Krelaxians fled as the facility began to shake itself apart. As energy surged through the corridors, Walker turned to his team. They didn't need words anymore. Their shared consciousness told them everything. They had entered this facility as prisoners. They would leave it as something unprecedented in the galaxy, a new form of human evolution, born from an enemy's attempt to break them. 3 days later, as ships from Earth arrived to investigate the facility's destruction, they found only a smoking crater and a simple message burned into the crystalline ground. Humanity is not to be caged. We don't break under pressure. We transform. The message spread quickly across the galaxy, and the Krelaxian torture facility became a legend, a warning to any species that might think humans were easy prey. They had learned the hard way. What doesn't kill humans makes them stronger. And now, they were stronger than anyone could have imagined.